The emergency lights flickered again. Captain Jake Morrison counted the flickers. 3 short, 2 long, 3 short. The pattern meant the backup power was failing. He had been captain of the Starbound Merchant for 8 years, and he had never seen the ship in such bad shape. 17 days had passed since the pirates attacked them. 17 days of drifting through empty space with no engines, no main power, and no hope. The pirates had taken everything valuable from their cargo hold. They took the rare minerals that were supposed to go to the mining colony on Kepler 442. They took the medical supplies. They even took most of their food. But the pirates had not killed them. That would have been a mercy. Instead, they destroyed the engines and left the crew to die slowly in the cold darkness of space. Jake knew this was how pirates worked in the outer territories. They let their victims drift until they died, then came back later to strip the ship for parts. Jake stood up from his captain's chair and walked to the navigation console. First Officer Lisa Park sat there, still trying to make the communications array work. She had been trying for days. Her black hair was messy and her uniform was wrinkled. Nobody cared about appearance anymore. Any luck? Jake asked, though he already knew the answer. Lisa shook her head. The distress beacon is still broadcasting, but nobody is receiving it. We are too far from any trade routes, too far from any colonies, too far from anyone who could help. Jake looked at the star chart on the cracked screen. They were in Sector 47B, a region of space that most ships avoided. There were no planets here, no stations, no settlements. Just empty space stretching for light years in every direction. How many crew do we have left? Jake asked. 12, Lisa replied. We lost 3 in the attack. The rest are alive, but barely. Dr. Mills says we have maybe 2 weeks of food if we keep rationing. But that won't matter if the life support fails first. Jake nodded. He had already done the math. The air recyclers were running on emergency power. When that power died, they would have maybe 6 hours of breathable air. After that, they would all suffocate. A slow, painful death. Engineer Paul Robinson climbed up the ladder from the lower deck. His face was covered in grease and sweat. He had been working on the reactor for hours, trying to squeeze every last bit of power from it. Captain, I have bad news, Paul said. The reactor is dying faster than I thought. We have maybe 48 hours of emergency power left. After that, everything shuts down. Jake felt his stomach drop. 48 hours, 2 days. That was all they had left. Can you fix it? Jake asked, though he knew it was a stupid question. Paul shook his head. Not without parts. The pirates destroyed all our spare components. They knew exactly what they were doing. They wanted us to die slowly. Navigator Amy Foster walked onto the bridge. She was young, only 25, on her first deep space assignment. Her eyes were red from crying, though she tried to hide it. Captain, I've calculated our drift trajectory, Amy said. At our current speed and direction, we won't pass through any inhabited systems for 300 years. 300 years. They would be ancient history by then. Their bones would be floating in this metal tomb, preserved by the cold of space. Jake gathered his remaining crew in the mess hall. The 12 survivors sat around the metal table, their faces pale and hollow. They were a mix of species, 8 humans, 2 Centaurians with their blue-tinted skin, 1 Vegan with 4 arms, and 1 Altarian with silver eyes. But death didn't care about species. It would take them all equally. I won't lie to you, Jake said. Our situation is bad. The reactor is failing. We have 2 days of power left. Our distress beacon has gone unanswered. Nobody knows we're here. The crew sat in silence. What was there to say? They all knew they were going to die. I'm sorry, Jake continued. I failed you as a captain. I should have seen the pirates coming. I should have avoided this sector. I should have. A loud alarm suddenly filled the room. Everyone jumped. It was the proximity sensor, screaming that something was approaching. Lisa ran to the nearest console and checked the readings. Her eyes went wide. Captain, something is coming toward us. Something big. Jake rushed to look at the screen. The sensor data didn't make sense. The object was massive, easily 10 times the size of their ship. But it wasn't showing up properly on their scanners. The readings kept changing, flickering, as if the object was there and not there at the same time. Is it the pirates coming back? Amy asked, fear in her voice. Lisa shook her head. No, this is different. The energy signature is nothing like the pirate ships. I've never seen anything like this. They all moved to the observation windows. Outside was only darkness and distant stars. Then Jake saw it. A distortion in space like heat waves rising from hot pavement. The stars behind it bent and warped. The distortion grew larger. Space itself seemed to rip open, revealing a swirling void of impossible colors. The crew stepped back from the windows, terrified. Some of them had heard stories about anomalies in deep space, about ships that disappeared into rifts in reality. Then something emerged from the rift. A ship, but unlike any ship they had ever seen. It was enormous, easily a kilometer long. The hull was dark gray, almost black, covered in scars from countless battles. Weapons bristled from every surface. Cannons, missile tubes, energy projectors. This wasn't just a ship. It was a floating fortress of destruction. But what shocked Jake most was the symbol painted on the side. A blue and green sphere with white swirls. Earth. This was a human warship. That's impossible, Paul whispered. Human ships can't do that. Nobody's ships can do that. You can't just tear open space and appear from nowhere. The massive warship moved toward them with surprising grace for something so large. It came to a stop just 100 meters from their hull. This close, Jake could see more details. The name painted on the side, USS Retribution. The battle damage that covered every surface. The weapons that looked like they could destroy a small moon. The communication console crackled to life. A voice spoke, clear and strong. Cargo vessel Starbound Merchant, this is Commander Nathan Cross of the USS Retribution. We received your distress signal. We're here to help. Prepare for immediate evacuation. Jake couldn't believe what he was hearing. Help. After 17 days of hopeless drifting, help had arrived, but his mind couldn't process how they had found them. They were in the middle of nowhere. Their distress signal had a range of maybe a few light years. How had these humans heard it? How had they torn open space itself to reach them? Commander Cross, Jake responded, his voice shaky. This is Captain Morrison. We didn't think anyone would come. How did you find us? There was a pause before the commander replied. Captain, we've been hunting the pirates who attacked you for 3 months. We've been tracking them through systems most people think are impossible to navigate. When we detected your distress signal, we came immediately. Nobody deserves to die alone in the void. The crew of the Starbound Merchant looked at each other in amazement. The humans had been hunting their attackers. They had come to save them. They had done the impossible to reach them in time. Stand by for transport, Commander Cross said. We'll have you aboard in 5 minutes. And Captain Morrison, the pirates who did this to you won't hurt anyone else. That's a promise. As Jake watched the massive warship position itself for the rescue, he realized that everything he thought he knew about humans was wrong. They weren't just another spacefaring species. They were something else entirely. Something that could bend the laws of physics. Something that would cross impossible distances to save strangers. The USS Retribution hung in space like a guardian angel made of metal and weapons. And for the first time in 17 days, Jake Morrison felt hope. Commander Nathan Cross stood on the bridge of the USS Retribution, watching the damaged cargo vessel on the main display. His jaw tightened as he saw the extent of the damage. The pirates had been thorough. They had destroyed the engines, torn open the cargo bays, and left just enough power for the crew to die slowly. It was cruel. It was deliberate. It made him angry. Commander, I'm reading 12 life signs, Lieutenant Commander Diana Bell reported from her station. They're all weak. Malnutrition, dehydration, and the early stages of oxygen deprivation. We need to get them out now. Nathan nodded. Begin transport immediately. Have medical teams standing by. He turned to his crew. The bridge of the Retribution was massive, with 20 stations manned by some of the best officers Earth had ever produced. Each one had volunteered for this mission, knowing they would be operating far from home, hunting the worst criminals in the galaxy. Sir, the cargo vessel's captain is asking how we found them. Communications Officer Greg Palmer said. What should I tell him? Nathan smiled slightly. Tell him the truth. We heard their distress signal and we came. He doesn't need to know how we heard it from 200 light years away. The truth was that human technology had advanced in ways that other species couldn't understand. After first contact with alien civilizations 50 years ago, humans had learned that they were unique. While other species had developed space travel slowly over thousands of years, humans had been forced to advance quickly. Earth was a dangerous world, full of predators, diseases, and natural disasters. Humans had to evolve to be fighters, survivors, and most importantly, innovators. The result was technology that seemed impossible to other species. Quantum communication that could detect signals across impossible distances. Fold space drives that could tear holes in reality to travel instantly between points. Medical technology that could heal injuries in minutes instead of months. And weapons. Weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Transport complete, Diana announced. All 12 survivors are in Medical Bay 3. Nathan left the bridge and headed to the medical bay. He wanted to meet these people, to look them in the eye and promise them that justice would be served. The corridors of the Retribution were wide and well lit, a contrast to most military vessels. Nathan had insisted on it. His crew spent months at a time in deep space. They deserved comfort. He entered Medical Bay 3 to find organized chaos. Dr. Karen White and her team were moving between the 12 survivors, scanning them with devices that glowed blue. The survivors themselves looked stunned, staring at the clean white walls and advanced equipment. Captain Jake Morrison was sitting on one of the beds, watching as a medical technician ran a healing beam over a cut on his arm. The wound closed in seconds, leaving no scar. Jake's eyes were wide with disbelief. "Captain Morrison," Nathan said, approaching him. "I'm Commander Cross. How are you feeling?" Jake looked up at him. Nathan was tall, with short brown hair and gray eyes that had seen too much war. His uniform was simple but neat, with only a few medals to show his rank. I don't understand," Jake said. "That wound was infected. It should have taken weeks to heal, even with proper treatment. But your medic just waved that device over it and it's gone." Nathan sat down next to him. "Our medical technology is a bit more advanced than what you're used to." "How long were you drifting?" 17 days, Jake replied. "We thought we were dead." "We were dead. Another 2 days and we would have run out of power. How did you find us?" "We've been tracking the pirates who attacked you," Nathan explained. "They've hit 7 ships in the last 3 months. Always the same pattern. Attack, steal the cargo, destroy the engines, leave the crew to die. We've been following them through systems that most ships can't navigate." Lisa Park approached them, supported by a nurse. She had been given nutrients and fluids and already looked stronger. "Commander, I'm First Officer Park. Can I ask you something?" "Of course. That thing your ship did, tearing open space like that. How is it possible? It violates everything we know about physics." Nathan chose his words carefully. "Humans see the universe differently than other species. Where you see solid barriers, we see doors. Where you see impossible distances, we see shortcuts. It's hard to explain, but basically we learned how to bend reality instead of working within its limits." Paul Robinson, the engineer, overheard and joined them. "But the energy requirements alone would be astronomical. You'd need the power of a star to tear open space like that." Nathan smiled. "Who says we don't have it?" Paul's eyes widened. He looked like he wanted to ask more questions, but Dr. White interrupted. "Commander, I need to speak with you privately." Nathan followed her to her office. Once the door was closed, her expression turned serious. "These people were tortured," she said bluntly. "It wasn't just robbery. The pirates hurt them for fun. 3 of them have broken bones that were never set properly. 2 have burns from energy weapons. The Altarian has nerve damage from electrical shocks." Nathan's hands clenched into fists. "Can you heal them?" "Already done," Karen replied. "But Commander, this wasn't just piracy. This was sadism. Whoever did this enjoyed making them suffer." Nathan's expression darkened. "Then they picked the wrong species to mess with." He returned to the main medical bay where the survivors had gathered. They looked better already, the color returning to their faces. The 2 Centaurians were talking quietly in their own language, while the Vegan was examining one of the medical devices with his forearms. "I want to show you all something," Nathan announced. "Follow me." He led them to one of the observation decks. It was a large room with a transparent aluminum wall that provided a clear view of space. But what caught their attention wasn't the view. It was the other people in the room. 20 crew members from the Retribution were there, working at various stations. But these weren't ordinary humans. One was bench pressing what looked like 500 pounds without breaking a sweat. Another was solving complex equations in her head faster than the computer could verify them. A third was assembling a weapon blindfolded, his hands moving so fast they were almost a blur. "This is just our recreation deck," Nathan explained. "My crew likes to stay sharp during long missions." Jake watched in amazement. "They're all like this? All humans?" "Not all," Nathan admitted, "but many. Earth's military selects the best of the best. Then we enhance them. Not with machines or drugs, but with training that pushes the human body and mind to its absolute limits. Amy Foster, the young navigator, was watching a human pilot in a flight simulator. The pilot was pulling maneuvers that should have crushed him under the G-forces, but he was laughing while doing it. "That's impossible," she whispered. "Those G-forces would kill anyone." "Humans evolved on a world with higher gravity than most," Diana Bell explained, joining them. "Our bodies can handle stress that would break other species, and we've learned to push even those limits." Lieutenant Tony Garcia approached with a tablet. "Commander, I've finished analyzing the quantum signature from the weapons used on their ship. I can track the pirates. They're currently in the Kelmar system, about 30 light-years from here." 30 light-years? Jake exclaimed. "That's weeks of travel even at maximum speed." Nathan smiled. "Not for us. We can be there in 3 hours." The survivors looked at each other in disbelief. 3 hours to travel 30 light-years. It was impossible. But then again, everything about these humans seemed impossible. "You're going after them?" Jake asked. "That's why we're here," Nathan replied. "The pirates have been operating for too long because nobody could catch them. They jump through dangerous systems, hide in nebulas that would fry most ships' electronics, and attack innocent vessels in areas where no help can reach. But they made one mistake." "What mistake?" Lisa asked. "They attacked a ship carrying supplies for a human colony. When you threaten our supply lines, when you hurt innocent people under our protection, you become our problem. And humans are very good at solving problems." Security Chief Ryan Cole entered the observation deck. He was a large man, muscled like a warrior from ancient times. "Commander, the crew is ready for combat. Just give the word." Nathan looked at the survivors. "You're safe now. We'll take you to the nearest station after we deal with the pirates. But I want you to understand something. What they did to you will never happen again. Not to you, not to anyone else. That's a promise from Earth." The Altarian spoke for the first time, his silver eyes reflecting the lights. "Why do you care? We're not human. We're not your people." Nathan's expression softened. "On Earth, we have a saying. Evil triumphs when good people do nothing. We're not going to do nothing. You needed help and we came. That's what humans do." As the survivors watched, the USS Retribution began to power up its weapon systems. The ship hummed with energy, like a predator preparing to hunt. Through the observation window, they could see space beginning to distort again. They were about to witness something few non-humans had ever seen. A human warship on the hunt, and the pirates who had left them to die were about to learn why the galaxy was beginning to whisper about humans in fear and awe. The USS Retribution tore through space like a knife through paper. The survivors from the Starbound merchant stood on the observation deck, watching reality bend around them. Colors that didn't exist flashed past the windows. Stars stretched into lines of light. The entire ship vibrated with power that felt almost alive. Jake Morrison gripped the railing, his knuckles white. He had traveled through space for 20 years, but he had never experienced anything like this. They were moving through fold space, a dimension that existed between dimensions. It should have been impossible. The energy required should have been infinite. But here they were, racing through the impossible at speeds that made light look slow. 3 hours, that's what Commander Cross had said. 3 hours to travel 30 light-years. Jake's ship would have taken 6 weeks to cover the same distance, and that was at maximum speed with perfect conditions. Lieutenant Tony Garcia stood at a tracking station nearby, following the quantum signature of the pirates' weapons. His fingers danced across holographic displays that appeared in the air. Data streams flowed past faster than Jake could read, but Tony seemed to understand every bit of it. "Got them," Tony announced. 7 ships, standard pirate configuration. They're docked at a hidden base in the Kelmar system. It's built into an asteroid, heavily fortified. Commander Cross studied the tactical display. The pirate base was impressive. Energy shields that could withstand bombardment from a fleet. Weapon platforms that could target anything within 1,000,000 kilometers. Hidden defensive fighters ready to launch. It was a fortress that had never been successfully attacked. "They think they're safe," Nathan said. "They've been operating from this base for 5 years. Every law enforcement agency in the sector knows where they are, but nobody has been able to touch them." "Why not?" Amy Foster asked. "Because the defenses are too strong for conventional attacks," Diana Bell explained. "You would need a fleet of at least 50 ships to break through those shields, and you would lose half of them in the process. No government wants to pay that price to stop some pirates." Ryan Cole grinned. "Good thing we're not conventional." The Retribution dropped out of fold space at the edge of the Kelmar system. The transition was smooth, like stepping from one room to another. Jake barely felt it. His own ship would have shaken apart attempting something similar. On the main screen, they could see the asteroid base. It was massive, 5 kilometers across, hollowed out and converted into a fortress. Ships were docked along its surface like parasites on a whale. The energy shield surrounding it shimmered with a faint blue light. "Sir, they're hailing us," Greg Palmer reported. "Put them on screen," Nathan ordered. A face appeared on the display. A Rigelian pirate with scarred green skin and cybernetic implants covering half his skull. Jake recognized him. This was the one who had tortured his crew, who had laughed while destroying their engines. "Unknown vessel, you are entering restricted space," the pirate said. "Leave immediately or be destroyed." Nathan stepped forward. "This is Commander Nathan Cross of the USS Retribution. You attacked and destroyed a cargo vessel 17 days ago. You left 12 people to die in the void. I'm here to discuss your surrender." The pirate laughed. "Surrender? Look at our defenses, human. We have enough firepower to destroy a fleet. You have one ship. Leave now and we might let you live." "I'll give you one chance," Nathan said calmly. "Lower your shields, surrender your weapons, and prepare to be boarded. You have 60 seconds to comply." The pirate's expression turned to rage. "You dare threaten us? We are the Shadow Serpents. We have terrorized this sector for years. Nobody challenges us?" 50 seconds, Nathan said. The pirate cut the transmission. Immediately, the base's weapons began powering up. Dozens of turrets turned toward the Retribution. Fighter craft launched from hidden bays. The energy shield increased to maximum power. "They're targeting us," Diana reported. 30 weapon locks and climbing. Nathan turned to his crew. "Battle stations. Show them why humans are different." What happened next would be told in stories across the galaxy for decades. The USS Retribution didn't just fight. It became something else, something that defied understanding. The pirate base fired first. Energy beams, plasma torpedoes, and kinetic rounds filled space. Any one of those weapons could have destroyed a normal ship. But the Retribution wasn't normal. It moved like liquid, flowing around attacks that should have been impossible to dodge. Its point defense systems created a web of laser fire that destroyed incoming projectiles before they could get close. Then, the Retribution fired back. Not with conventional weapons, but with something else. Missiles that phased out of reality, passing through the energy shield like it wasn't there, then phased back in to strike the base directly. Energy beams that bent around obstacles to hit their targets. Fighters that launched from the Retribution moved in ways that hurt to watch, turning at angles that shouldn't exist. The 2 Centaurians on the observation deck were speaking rapidly in their own language, pointing at the battle. The Vegan's forearms were shaking. The Altarian's silver eyes were wide with what might have been fear or awe. "How?" Paul Robinson asked, his engineering mind trying to understand. "Those weapons are impossible. You can't phase matter through shields. You can't bend energy beams. You can't—" "We can," Diana said simply. "Humans don't accept impossible. We find ways around it." The pirate fighters tried to swarm the Retribution, but human pilots met them in space. Jake watched as a single human fighter took on 12 pirate ships at once. The human pilot, callsign Phoenix, flew through the enemy formation like a ghost. Her fighter spun, rolled, and twisted in ways that would have torn apart any other craft. She destroyed 6 enemy fighters in 30 seconds without taking a single hit. The pirate base's shields were flickering now, failing under the assault of weapons they couldn't understand or counter. The pirates were panicking, their formations breaking apart. Then something unexpected happened. A section of the asteroid base exploded from within, not from the Retribution's weapons, but from inside. Figures in powered armor emerged from the breach, moving through the vacuum of space with jetpacks. "Boarding team is in," Ryan Cole reported. They phase-shifted directly through the asteroid's hull. Jake couldn't believe what he was hearing. "They teleported inside solid rock?" "Not exactly teleported," Nathan explained. "They shifted their molecular structure to pass through matter. It's painful and dangerous, but my Marines are trained for it." On the tactical display, they could see the boarding team moving through the base. 12 humans against hundreds of pirates. It should have been a massacre. But the humans moved like demons, appearing from walls, disappearing through floors, striking from angles that shouldn't exist. Within minutes, the pirates' command center was captured. The shields fell completely. The weapons went silent. The battle was over, 15 minutes, Tony said, checking his chronometer. The entire battle took 15 minutes. The pirate leader appeared on screen again, but now he was on his knees, hands bound behind his back. A human marine stood behind him, weapon aimed at his head. Please, the pirate begged. We surrender. We'll tell you everything. Our contacts, our buyers, everything. Just don't kill us. Nathan's expression was cold. You left 12 people to die in the void. You tortured them for fun. Give me one reason why I should show you mercy. We have information, the pirate said desperately. This isn't just random piracy. We're funded by the hegemony. They pay us to destabilize the outer territories, to make the independent colonies desperate enough to accept their protection. The bridge went silent. The hegemony was a coalition of the richest and most powerful systems in the galaxy. If they were behind the piracy, this was bigger than anyone had imagined. Nathan turned to Jake and the other survivors. Did you hear that? The governments that were supposed to protect you have been funding the pirates that attacked you. Jake felt rage building in his chest. His crew had almost died, had suffered for 17 days because some politicians wanted to expand their power. What are you going to do? Jake asked. Nathan smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant smile. It was the smile of a predator that had just found bigger prey. We're going to do what humans do best, he said. We're going to change everything. He turned back to the screen. Secure all prisoners. Download everything from their computers. Every file, every communication, every transaction. We're going to expose everyone involved in this. Dr. Karen White entered the bridge. Commander, we've found something else. The base has holding cells. There are 43 prisoners from previous raids. Some have been here for months. Nathan's jaw tightened. Get them all to medical. Full treatment. He looked at the tactical display showing the captured base. 7 pirate ships disabled or destroyed. Over 200 pirates captured. 0 casualties on the human side. It was a victory that should have been impossible, but Jake was beginning to understand that impossible was just another word for something humans hadn't done yet. Captain Morrison, Nathan said, would you and your crew like to see the pirates who attacked you brought to justice? Jake looked at his crew. Lisa nodded. Paul cracked his knuckles. Amy's young face was hard with determination. Even the non-humans were nodding. Yes, Jake said. Lieutenant Commander Diana Bell stood in the captured pirate base's command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing data streams from the pirates' computers. Her team had been working for 6 hours straight, pulling every piece of information from the systems. What they found made her sick. The conspiracy was massive. The hegemony hadn't just funded a few pirates. They had created an entire network of terror across the outer territories. Hundreds of attacks over 5 years. Thousands of deaths. All to create chaos that would force independent colonies to beg for hegemony protection. Commander, you need to see this, she called to Nathan Cross. Nathan approached, along with Jake Morrison and several survivors from the Starbound merchant. Diana pulled up a specific file, a communication between a hegemony admiral and the pirate leader. Payment confirmed for Operation Starfall, the message read. Target the medical supply convoy to Kepler 442. Make sure there are survivors to spread fear. The colony must understand they need our protection. Jake's face went pale. That was us. They specifically targeted us to terrorize the colony. Amy Foster was reading another file. Look at this. Senator Marcus Reed of the Cygnus Parliament. He personally approved funding for 15 attacks on mining colonies that refused to sell their mineral rights to hegemony corporations. Paul Robinson found technical specifications. They gave the pirates military-grade weapons and shields. No wonder nobody could stop them. They had better equipment than most system defense forces. The Altarian survivor, who had introduced himself as Zelen, pointed to another display with his long silver fingers. This shows payment records. Over 2 billion credits transferred from hegemony black accounts to pirate organizations across 7 sectors. Nathan's expression was grim. This is evidence of crimes against humanity, against all species. The question is, what do we do with it? We have to report it to the Galactic Council, Lisa Park said. They can conduct an investigation, hold trials. Ryan Cole laughed bitterly. The Galactic Council is half controlled by the hegemony. They'll bury this evidence, classify it as a security risk, and nothing will change. Nathan made a decision. Diana, prepare to broadcast all this data on every communication frequency. Military, civilian, commercial, entertainment. Everyone needs to see this at the same time. Sir, that's illegal, Greg Palmer pointed out. Broadcasting classified intelligence violates about 17 interstellar treaties. Nathan turned to face his crew and the survivors. The hegemony has been murdering innocent people for profit and power. They've been using pirates as weapons while pretending to be civilized. They tortured these people and left them to die. I don't care about treaties. I care about justice. Jake stepped forward. Commander Cross, if you do this, the hegemony will come after you. They have hundreds of warships. Nathan smiled. Let them come. Earth has something they don't. What's that? Humans who are really angry. Diana began the broadcast. Across dozens of systems on millions of screens, the evidence appeared. Videos of hegemony officials discussing murder like a business transaction. Financial records showing payments to pirates. Lists of attacks that had been orchestrated for political gain. The reaction was immediate. On hegemony worlds, citizens took to the streets demanding answers. On independent colonies, militias began mobilizing. On trade stations, workers refused to load hegemony cargo. But the hegemony leadership wasn't going to accept defeat easily. Within an hour, a fleet of 30 warships appeared at the edge of the Kelmar system. They were massive vessels, each one 3 times the size of the Retribution. Their weapons were charged, their shields at maximum. Admiral Jonathan Pike of the hegemony fleet appeared on the main screen. He was an older human, one who had chosen wealth and power over his own species' principles. Commander Cross, you have committed an act of war against the hegemony, Pike said. You will surrender immediately, turn over all data you've stolen, and prepare to face trial for treason. Treason? Nathan asked. I'm not a hegemony citizen. Neither is my crew. We're Earth military, and last I checked, Earth isn't part of your corrupt alliance. You're human, Pike spat. That makes you subject to human authority, and I represent that authority in this sector. Nathan laughed. You represent greed and murder. You're not human anymore, Pike. You're just another corrupt politician hiding behind a fleet. Pike's face turned red with anger. You have 1 ship against 30. Surrender or be destroyed. Nathan turned to Jake and the other survivors. You might want to strap in. This is going to get rough. Then he addressed his crew. All hands, prepare for combat. We're outnumbered 30-1. He paused, then grinned. So it's almost a fair fight. The hegemony fleet opened fire. Hundreds of weapons discharged at once, filling space with death. The Retribution twisted and spun, its pilot pushing the ship beyond what should have been possible. Lieutenant Sandra Kim, callsign Ghost, was at the helm. Her hands moved faster than human eyes could follow, her mind processing thousands of variables per second. The Retribution's weapons fired back, but now they revealed their true power. Antimatter torpedoes that could crack a moon. Particle beams that ignored shields entirely. Gravity weapons that crushed enemy ships from the inside. 3 hegemony ships exploded in the first 30 seconds. Impossible, Admiral Pike shouted over the communications. No single ship has that much firepower. But the Retribution wasn't fighting alone. Suddenly, tiers in space opened around the battlefield. More human ships emerged from fold space. Not a fleet, just 5 more vessels, but each one was like the Retribution. Impossible weapons wrapped in scarred armor. This is Captain Maria Santos of the USS Vengeance, a voice said over the comm. Commander Cross needs some help. This is Captain Chen Wu of the USS Fury. Captain Alex Cooper, USS Justice, reporting for battle. Captain Yuki Tanaka, USS Redemption, weapons hot. Captain Omar Hassan, USS Defiance. Let's show them what humans can do. 6 human warships against 30 hegemony vessels. The odds were still against them. But odds had never mattered to humans. The battle became a dance of destruction. Human ships moved through space like living things, dodging attacks that should have been unavoidable. Their weapons struck with surgical precision, targeting engines, weapons, and shield generators. But it was the fighter pilots that truly showed human superiority. They flew directly into enemy formations, through crossfire that should have vaporized them. They pulled maneuvers that generated 50 times Earth's gravity, forces that would turn most species into paste. But humans had evolved on a death world. Their bodies could take punishment that would kill anyone else. Inside the Retribution, Jake watched the battle in awe. A human fighter pilot, callsign Reaper, flew directly through a hegemony battleship's shield, phased through its hull and destroyed its reactor from the inside before phasing back out. That's not possible, Paul kept repeating. The energy requirements, the molecular cohesion, the quantum calculations needed. Watch and learn, Diana said. This is what humans are when we stop holding back. The hegemony fleet was falling apart. Half their ships were disabled or destroyed. Admiral Pike's flagship was burning, its shields failing. Then something unexpected happened. Ships began emerging from fold space behind the hegemony fleet. But these weren't human vessels. They were from the independent colonies. Cargo haulers fitted with weapons, mining ships with improvised armor, even a few system defense boats that should never have left their home ports. "Commander Cross," a voice said over an open channel. "This is Captain Torres of the independent freighter Hope's Dream. We saw your broadcast. We know what the hegemony did to us. We're here to help." More voices joined in. Dozens of ships, all civilians who had suffered under pirate attacks, all here to fight against those who had orchestrated their suffering. Admiral Pike's image appeared on screen again. His bridge was in chaos, smoke and sparks filling the air. "This is madness," he shouted. "You're destroying the established order. Without the hegemony, there will be chaos." "There already is chaos," Nathan replied. "You created it. You fed it. You profited from it. Now face the consequences." Pike's flagship exploded. The Admiral's escape pod launched, but it was immediately captured by one of the independent ships. The remaining hegemony vessels began to surrender, their crews unwilling to die for leaders who had betrayed everything they stood for. The battle was over. But as Nathan had said, this was just the beginning. Senator Marcus Reed appeared on an emergency broadcast from the hegemony capital. "This is a misunderstanding," he said, sweat visible on his forehead. "The documents are forgeries. We would never—" His transmission was cut off as crowds stormed the Parliament building. Across 20 systems, hegemony governments fell. Some through peaceful protests, others through military coups as their own forces turned against corrupt leaders. The evidence the Retribution had broadcast couldn't be denied or suppressed. Nathan stood on the bridge, watching the aftermath. "Diana, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them the outer territories are going to need help rebuilding. Tell them we're going to need more ships out here." "Yes, sir." Jake approached Nathan. "What happens now? Without the hegemony, who maintains order?" Nathan looked at him. "The people do. The colonies. 6 months had passed since the battle at Kelmar. The galaxy had changed in ways nobody could have predicted. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his new ship, the New Dawn, watching the stars streak past. It was a beautiful vessel, built with human technology but designed for mixed-species crews. The engines could achieve speeds that would have seemed like magic a year ago. The shields could withstand attacks that would have vaporized his old ship, but more importantly, it flew under a new flag. The banner of the Free Trade Alliance, a coalition of independent colonies, trading posts, and shipping companies that had formed in the wake of the hegemony's collapse. Earth had helped establish it, providing technology and protection but refusing to control it. Lisa Park stood at her station, now serving as his first officer on this new vessel. She had spent 3 months training on Earth, learning navigation techniques that bent space and time. She could plot courses through dimensions that didn't technically exist. "Captain, we're approaching the Vega station," she reported. "ETA 5 minutes, Jake nodded. What would have been a 2-week journey in his old ship now took 3 hours. The galaxy had become smaller but somehow also larger. With human technology spreading to peaceful species, new trade routes were opening. Colonies that had been isolated for decades were now connected. Paul Robinson was down in engineering, working with a team of humans and aliens to maintain the hybrid reactor. He had graduated from Earth's Engineering Academy with honors, one of the first non-humans to do so. He understood maybe 10% of how the technology actually worked, but that was enough to keep it running. Amy Foster had joined Earth's merchant fleet directly, wanting to explore the new possibilities that human navigation offered. Last Jake had heard, she was piloting supply runs to colonies at the edge of the galaxy, places that had never seen outside visitors before. The door to the bridge opened, and Commander Nathan Cross walked in. He was visiting the New Dawn as part of his patrol route. The USS Retribution and its sister ships now maintained peace in the outer territories, not through conquest but through presence. Pirates had all but disappeared. Who would risk attacking innocent ships when human warships could appear from nowhere? "Captain Morrison," Nathan greeted him. "How's the new ship treating you?" "Like a dream," Jake replied. "We've completed 15 supply runs in the last month. We're reaching colonies that haven't had medical supplies in years. Nathan smiled. That's what it's all about. Not war, not conquest, just people helping people. Through the viewport, Vega Station came into view. It had been rebuilt after the hegemony's fall, now serving as a neutral trading post where all species were welcome. Human technology had been integrated into its design, creating something new. The station could defend itself against any threat, but its primary purpose was peaceful trade. As they docked, Jake saw dozens of ships from different species. Centaurian cargo haulers, Rigelian science vessels, even a few Altarian diplomatic ships, all flying in peace, all protected by the knowledge that human warships were just a distress call away. Inside the station, the marketplace was bustling. Vendors sold goods from across the galaxy. Children of different species played together in the parks. There was no fear, no tension between races. The shadow of piracy and corruption had been lifted. Jake met with his contact, a Vegan merchant named Thrix. With his 4 arms, Thrix could handle complex negotiations while simultaneously checking inventory. He had been one of the prisoners freed from the pirate base 6 months ago. "Captain Morrison," Thrix called out. "Good to see you. I have the medical supplies you ordered, all ready for transport to the Kepler colonies." "Thank you, Thrix. How's business?" "Better than ever. With the new trade routes and human protection, we can ship anywhere. No more paying protection money to pirates. No more losing half our cargo to corruption. It's a new age." As they conducted their business, Jake noticed a memorial wall that had been erected in the station's main plaza. It listed the names of everyone who had died in pirate attacks over the past decade. Thousands of names in dozens of languages. At the top was an inscription in Earth Standard, "Never again. Protected by Earth. Remembered by all." A young Centaurian approached Jake. She couldn't have been more than equivalent to a human teenager. "Excuse me, are you Captain Morrison? From the Starbound merchant?" Jake nodded. "That's me. My father was on a ship that was attacked by pirates 2 years ago. He died. But I heard your story. How the humans saved you, how they stopped the pirates." "Thank you." Jake felt tears in his eyes. "I'm sorry about your father, but you should thank Commander Cross and the humans, not me." "I did," the girl said. "But you survived to tell the story. You showed everyone that there was hope." After she left, Nathan put his hand on Jake's shoulder. "You did more than survive, Jake. You became a symbol. Your rescue showed the galaxy that humans would come for anyone in distress." They walked through the station, observing the changes. A human medical clinic provided free treatment using technology that seemed miraculous. A human educational center taught engineering and navigation to anyone who wanted to learn. A human cultural center showed films and art from Earth, sharing their species' history and values. But it wasn't one-sided. Humans were learning too. Centaurian philosophy classes were packed with human students. Vegan cooking had become popular on Earth. Altarian music was topping charts in human colonies. "It's not what I expected," Jake said. "When the humans first arrived to save us, I thought you would become the new hegemony. Powerful species often dominate weaker ones." Nathan shook his head. "That's not our way. On Earth, we have a long history of the strong protecting the weak. It doesn't always work perfectly, but it's the ideal we strive for. When we reached the stars and found other species, we had a choice. Conquer or protect. We chose to protect." They reached the station's command center, where a mixed crew of humans and aliens worked together to maintain order. The station commander, a human woman named Captain Rodriguez, greeted them. "Commander Cross, Captain Morrison, welcome. I have something to show you." She led them to a secure communication room where a holographic display showed a star map of the entire galaxy. Dots of different colors indicated different things. Green for peaceful systems, yellow for areas needing assistance, red for remaining threats. "The last of the hegemony holdouts surrendered yesterday," Rodriguez reported. "Admiral Pike and his conspirators are facing trial on Earth. The trials are being broadcast across the galaxy, showing everyone that justice exists." "What about the pirates?" Jake asked. "The ones who showed remorse and cooperated are serving prison sentences with chances for rehabilitation. The leaders and the worst offenders are in maximum security on Earth's moon. They'll never hurt anyone again." Nathan studied the map. "There's still work to do. Some systems are still recovering. Some colonies still need help. That's why we're here," Rodriguez said. "Earth has committed to maintaining peace in the outer territories for at least 50 years. Not as rulers, but as guardians. Until local forces are strong enough to maintain their own security. A communication came in from Earth Command. Admiral Susan Martinez appeared on the screen, the highest-ranking officer in Earth's Space Force. Commander Cross, Captain Morrison, I have news. The Galactic Council has officially recognized the Free Trade Alliance as a sovereign entity. Earth has been granted permanent observer status with veto power over any resolution that would harm innocent populations. Jake was stunned. The Council agreed to that? Martinez smiled. They didn't have much choice. After we exposed the hegemony's crimes, after our ship showed what humans are capable of, they realized it was better to have us as partners than enemies. She continued, Captain Morrison, the Council also wants to honor you and your crew. You'll be receiving the Galaxy Peace Medal for your role in exposing the conspiracy. Jake didn't know what to say. 6 months ago, he had been dying in a drifting ship. Now he was being honored by the Galactic Council. After the communication ended, Nathan and Jake returned to the observation deck. Through the transparent aluminum, they could see the USS Retribution floating nearby. Its scarred hull a reminder of the battles it had fought. What happens now? Jake asked. Nathan was quiet for a moment. Now we build, we explore, we protect. We show the galaxy that strength doesn't have to mean oppression. That power can be used for good. A distress signal suddenly appeared on Nathan's communicator. A colony ship had suffered engine failure 3 systems away. Without hesitation, Nathan began moving toward his ship. Duty calls, he said. Someone needs help. Jake watched as the USS Retribution powered up, space beginning to distort around it. In seconds, it tore open reality and disappeared, racing to save strangers in distress. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not conquest, not domination, but the simple promise that when someone called for help in the darkness, humans would answer. They would cross impossible distances, break the laws of physics, and fight any enemy to protect the innocent. The New Dawn left Vega Station an hour later, its cargo hold full of medical supplies for colonies that needed them. As they entered fold space, Jake thought about how much had changed. The galaxy was safer now. Not perfect, but better. And somewhere out there, the USS Retribution and its sister